So we just said in our particular architecture that the HTML interpreter is going to call the JavaScript interpreter, but not the other way around. So they're kind of like two pieces to a puzzle that totally fit. These fit perfectly with the application of another jigsaw. I've labeled them as fitting, so they fit now. Recall that we treat JavaScript as a single HTML token. And the reason for this is that things like 5 is less than 7 or A is greater than B, those can appear in JavaScript, but they would confuse us in HTML because we'd think the less than and greater than were part of tags. For example, this is totally valid JavaScript. Assuming A and B are defined somewhere, this should either print out true or false. But if you look at it carefully, this less than B is sort of indistinguishable from the less than B that might come in legitimate HTML, like less than B greater than bold. So that's why we took all of this text and we didn't interpret it in our HTML parser. Instead, we saved it for later. Well, now's the time. Let me just remind you of how we defined our tokens related to JavaScript. Here I have our rule for beginning the tokenization of JavaScript. Remember, these backslashes are escape sequences. You should read right over them. In some sense, the first character I want to match is this less than sign, but just in case that has special meaning for regular expressions, I'm going to put a backslash before it to escape it so that they know I mean exactly this backslash. Just like over here, I mean exactly this space, exactly this double quote, exactly this forward slash, exactly this double quote, and exactly this greater than sign. So we're requiring JavaScript to start with script space text or type equals text slash JavaScript. And when it does, we move our lexer into a slightly different world. And we talked about this before. We just have multiple finite state machines and whoop, we're down at the one at the bottom now. And then down here, I have my rule for ending JavaScript lexing. We're looking for this, but just in case any of these three special symbols have special meaning to regular expressions, I have put the backslash and escape sequence in front of all of them. This is probably not actually necessary, but it's what's known as defensive programming. Can't hurt, might help. I want the token value to be all of the string data, all of the embedded JavaScript code. I'm going to use a variable we haven't told you about yet. It's possible to get the entire input string from the lexer in token.lexer.lexData. Don't worry too much. I'm just going to assert that this works. This is the entire big string, and I'm going to get it starting at the position we recorded earlier. Back up here, when we found the JavaScript token, we wrote down the current lexer position and stored it in a little variable we made up called code_start. So let's say 50 characters into the file, we started the JavaScript. We'll just store that 50 right here in code_start. That's going to let us pull out, starting at character 50, up to where we currently are. Let's say that there are 100 characters of JavaScript. Now we'd be at 150. And I'm subtracting out 9. Why am I subtracting out 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the size of this ending token. I don't want this slash script to be in it. So I've set the value correctly. I say the type of this token is JavaScript. For accurate debugging information, we want to keep track of which line we were on in case we want to report errors later. Here's a trick. The JavaScript embedded code probably had new lines in it. I want to make sure that all of those count. So I'm going to count up the total number of new lines or carriage returns or whatnot found in the embedded JavaScript code and increment my own line count by that amount. Then we go back and move to the initial state of the lexer where we can get HTML tokens like L-angle, L-angle/, R-angle. So this is just gathering up the raw string for embedded JavaScript and storing it as a single HTML token. One last important thing to remind you of, note that we stripped off the final script from the end. And because of the way LexPos works, it measures the value after we match the token. We actually end up stripping off the script type text JavaScript from the beginning as well.